Have you ever felt like the harder you try to control everything, the more things seem to slip out of your hands? What if the secret to a more peaceful life isn't in trying harder, but in not forcing anything at all? In today's episode, we're unlocking a powerful Stoic truth. Don't force anything. Let life flow. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this episode, we're going to explore a Stoic principle that's simple to understand, but transformative when truly practiced. Don't force anything in your life. We've all been there, pushing too hard, trying to control every outcome, stressing about things that are completely out of our hands, whether it's a job, a relationship, or just the day-to-day hustle. The more we try to manipulate every detail, the more overwhelmed and frustrated we become. But the Stoics invite us to take a different path, one of alignment, not resistance. They teach that life becomes more peaceful, more meaningful, and more ours when we let go of force and allow things to unfold naturally. In today's video, I'll be sharing 10 essential lessons that will help you live with more ease, more presence, and more inner freedom. These aren't abstract philosophies. They're practical tools rooted in Stoic wisdom. You'll learn how to find joy in simple moments, how to practice mindfulness, and even how silence and solitude can become your greatest allies. If these lessons resonate with you, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends and family. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button so you won't miss more life-changing Stoic wisdom like this. All right, let's get into it. Live in the present moment. It sounds like advice we've all heard before, but for the Stoics, this isn't just a mindfulness mantra. It's a foundational way of life. In a world that constantly pulls us toward the next thing, what's coming, what's overdue, what could have been, it's incredibly easy to forget. The only moment we truly own is the one we're in right now. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, once said, "Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. While you live, while it is in your power, be good." It's a powerful reminder that time is fleeting, and the present is the only space where we can truly live and act with intention. But let's be honest. Most of us spend our days consumed by our to-do lists, by regrets, or by fantasies of the future. We're rarely here. And when we're not present, we miss out on the beauty, the connection, and the peace that the current moment can offer. Living fully in the present isn't just about slowing down. It's about waking up. It's about noticing the tiny joys that are already around us. A cup of coffee in the early morning, the sound of birds outside your window, a deep breath taken without rush. Can you remember the last time you were truly present? Maybe it was during a quiet walk in nature, or sitting by a window, sunlight warming your face, nothing on your mind but the now. In those rare moments, we feel a kind of calm that no amount of planning or fixing can give us. Stoicism teaches that peace isn't something you chase, it's something you access right here when you let go of everything else. In practical terms, living in the present means noticing the laughter of someone you love, feeling the breeze touch your skin, hearing your own breath and being okay with silence. These moments may seem small, but they're where real happiness lives. And when you focus on the now, you naturally begin to worry less. The future no longer controls you. The past no longer burdens you. You're just here, and that's enough. That's just the beginning. In the next part, we'll go even deeper into lessons that show how letting go doesn't mean giving up, but rather leaning in to a life that flows instead of fights. As we just explored, living fully in the present helps us find clarity, calm, and a deeper appreciation for life's simple moments. But the Stoics didn't stop there. They also believed that much of our suffering comes from resisting reality, or fearing what hasn't even happened yet. Think about it. How often do we wish things were different, or replay conversations from the past, or worry about tomorrow's problems today. According to Stoic philosophy, these mental loops are what trap us in unnecessary pain. But when we center ourselves in the present, we break free from that cycle. Let's take something as ordinary as eating a meal. How often do you find yourself eating with one hand on your phone, eyes glued to a screen, or your mind already jumping to your next task? Probably more often than we'd like to admit. Now imagine this instead. Sitting down quietly, truly savoring each bite, feeling the texture of the food, noticing the flavors, appreciating the fact that you're nourishing your body. That simple act, done with awareness, becomes something more. A moment of presence, a grounding ritual, a tiny anchor in a busy day. This, the Stoics remind us, is where presence begins, not in grand gestures, but in the small, repeated moments of mindfulness that bring us back to ourselves. Over time, this daily practice of being present builds a deeper sense of gratitude. And when gratitude grows, so does contentment. Another powerful way to cultivate this state of awareness is through mindfulness. But don't worry, mindfulness isn't some mystical practice that requires hours of meditation or retreating to a mountaintop. At its core, it simply means this: being aware of your thoughts, emotions, and surroundings as they are, without judgment. Whether you're walking, having a conversation, or typing away at your desk, mindfulness invites you to be fully there, to notice, to engage. And by doing that, not only do you deepen the experience itself, but you also become more effective and less distracted. Of course, living in the present isn't always easy. Our minds are naturally drawn to the past and the future. Distractions are everywhere. The Stoics weren't naive to this. They understood it deeply. That's why they encouraged regular self-reflection and gentle reminders to keep coming back to now. Epictetus, one of the most revered Stoic teachers, suggested a simple yet powerful question we can ask ourselves. What am I doing right now, and how does it contribute to my overall well-being? It sounds basic, but it works. That question can pull you out of autopilot and bring you back into conscious living. It's like a gentle tap on the shoulder. Hey, come back. Be here. A great way to begin is by carving out a few quiet minutes each day for a mindfulness practice. Morning or evening, whatever works for you. Sit comfortably. Take a few deep breaths. Let go of everything except the moment you're in. Don't analyze. Don't judge. Just observe. Over time, this simple habit can shift how you experience your days. You'll start to notice less stress, more calm, and a stronger connection to the world around you. Living in the present also means accepting a profound truth. The present is all we truly have. The past, it's already gone. The future, it's not promised. That doesn't mean we ignore them. It means we don't let them dominate us. You can still plan ahead. You can still learn from the past. But don't do it at the cost of missing what's right in front of you, this moment, this breath, this life unfolding now. When you start living this way, something shifts. Time feels slower, richer. Your relationships feel more authentic, and a quiet sense of peace begins to take root within you. So if there's one thing to take from this lesson, it's this: the present isn't just a place we pass through. It's where life actually happens. And in the next part, we're going to go even deeper into the art of letting go. Because sometimes peace doesn't come from what we hold on to, but from what we release. Previously, we talked about the power of being fully present and how that presence allows us to release worry, connect with the moment, and appreciate life more deeply. Now let's take it one step further and explore a truth that sits at the heart of Stoic wisdom. Everything is temporary. Letting go of unnecessary worries, embracing the now, and finding joy in life's simple moments. These are practices rooted in mindfulness. And when we learn to focus on what we can control, rather than obsessing over what we can't, we begin to live more meaningful, peaceful lives. As Marcus Aurelius so wisely said, "While you live, while it is in your power, be good." Let's take that to heart, not just as a quote, but as a way of life, a life lived with intention, a life fully awake. Among the most powerful and sobering lessons in Stoic philosophy is the acceptance of impermanence. The Stoics didn't sugarcoat it. Everything in life is temporary. Our possessions, our achievements, our relationships, even our own existence. Nothing is permanent, and that's exactly why it's precious. Marcus Aurelius put it plainly in his Meditations. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. This may sound heavy, but it's not about scaring us. It's about waking us up, about urging us to live deliberately, to speak with honesty, to act with kindness, and to not waste the time we've been given. At first, the idea of impermanence can be unsettling. We've been raised to believe that we'll always have time, or that once something is achieved, it will stay. But the Stoics challenge that assumption. They remind us that everything is always changing. Our circumstances, our thoughts, our health, our surroundings. By recognizing this truth, we begin to loosen our grip on what's beyond our control. We stop clinging to things as if they'll last forever. And paradoxically, that's when we start appreciating them more. In today's world, we often chase stability, financial, emotional, relational. We long for predictability because it gives us a sense of safety. But the more we try to force permanence onto a constantly shifting life, the more anxiety we invite in. Stoicism shows us a different approach. Embrace change, don't resist it. When we understand that everything is fleeting, we learn to ride the waves of life with more calm, more grace, and more inner strength. We become more resilient, not because life gets easier, but because we get wiser. Let's take a real-life example where this mindset can be especially helpful. Relationships. Many of us live in fear of losing the people we love through breakups, death, or simply drifting apart. The pain of loss is real, and it can feel unbearable, especially when we've convinced ourselves that something so beautiful must last forever. But the Stoics remind us, relationships, like all things, are impermanent. And that truth, as uncomfortable as it may be, is what makes them so deeply meaningful. Instead of fearing loss, we're called to cherish connection. Instead of clinging, we're invited to love fully while we can. Epictetus once said something deeply stirring. When you kiss your child goodnight, say to yourself, they may be gone by morning. Do not tempt fate by putting off what needs to be done now. At first glance, this may sound cold, but it's not about detachment. It's a powerful call to presence. It's about valuing the moments we have now, instead of assuming they'll always be there. By embracing impermanence, we don't become less caring. We become more compassionate, more engaged, more alive to the time we share with others. We listen more deeply. We speak more kindly. We love more fiercely, knowing nothing is guaranteed. So the next time you find yourself trying to hold on too tightly, remember, nothing in life is truly ours to keep. And in the next part, we'll explore a closely related idea, how detachment, not from love, but from control and outcome, can bring even greater freedom and peace into your life. In our previous segment, we explored how accepting the impermanence of life can deepen our appreciation for the people we love. When we stop assuming that time is endless, we begin to treat each moment and each connection with greater care and presence. This shift in perspective allows us to be more patient, more kind, and more grateful. Why? Because we no longer take anything or anyone for granted. And this mindset doesn't just apply to relationships. It touches every corner of our lives, our careers, our possessions, even our own physical health. Everything around us and within us is in a constant state of change. The more we resist that truth, the more we suffer. But when we embrace it, something remarkable happens. We become free. Think for a moment about how much stress people feel around aging. In a world that idolizes youth and beauty, growing older is often seen as something to be feared, or even fought against. But the Stoics had a very different view. Instead of resisting the passage of time, they welcomed it. They saw aging not as a loss, but as part of life's natural rhythm. As Seneca wisely wrote, "We are born to die. It is our duty to be prepared for that, and to live as if each day were our last." This isn't a morbid idea. It's an invitation to live with awareness. When we accept aging with grace, we stop running from time and start walking with it. Every chapter of life has its own wisdom, its own value, and the Stoics encourage us to meet each one with presence and humility. Another area where impermanence becomes incredibly liberating is in our relationship with material things. So many of us spend our lives chasing more money, a bigger house, the latest gadget, all in the hope that these things will finally bring happiness. But the Stoics saw through that illusion. They understood that wealth is fleeting and that real happiness doesn't come from what you own, but from what you need less of. As Epictetus put it, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. When we realize that material objects are impermanent, we stop being controlled by them. We can still enjoy what we have, but we don't cling to it. And when your peace no longer depends on what's outside of you, something incredible happens. You begin to build a quiet, unshakable confidence from within. Understanding the impermanence of life also helps clarify what truly matters. When you recognize that time is limited, you naturally start to ask yourself, am I spending my time in ways that nourish me? Am I pouring energy into what brings me joy and meaning, or just going through the motions? You begin to prioritize more intentionally, whether that means being fully present with your loved ones, dedicating time to a passion project, or contributing to something greater than yourself. The Stoics weren't telling us to live in fear of death. They were urging us to live with purpose. Each day isn't just another block on the calendar, it's an opportunity, a chance to align your actions with your values. Let's say you're overwhelmed at work, the deadlines feel crushing, you're constantly second-guessing yourself, worried about whether you're doing enough. In that moment, everything feels urgent. But through the lens of Stoicism, you step back. You remember, this stress is temporary. This situation will pass. In the grand scheme of life, this moment is just a ripple. And suddenly, the weight lifts. You still do your best, but without being consumed by fear or anxiety. That shift in mindset is what Stoicism is all about. In the end, accepting the impermanence of life is not about detachment. It's about depth. It's about being fully alive, knowing that everything we experience is a fleeting gift. Our relationships, our possessions, even our breath, none of it is guaranteed. And that's exactly why we must cherish it. As Marcus Aurelius reminded us, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Let this idea be a quiet but powerful call to live with more awareness, more gratitude, and more intention, starting today. In the next part of this journey, we'll explore how learning to let go of control and trust the flow of life can bring even greater peace and clarity. Because sometimes strength isn't found in holding on, but in knowing when to release. In our last section, we explored how embracing impermanence can help us live with more clarity and gratitude. Now, hand in hand with that idea comes one of the most powerful and practical principles in Stoic philosophy: acceptance. Acceptance is not weakness. In Stoicism, it's one of the greatest sources of strength. At its core, acceptance means recognizing that there are things in life we simply cannot control. And instead of resisting those realities, we learn to meet them with grace. It's not about giving up. It's about aligning ourselves with reality as it is, not as we wish it were. Epictetus, one of the most influential Stoic thinkers, put it perfectly. Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens. This short but powerful statement captures the heart of the Stoic mindset. It reminds us that while we can shape our thoughts, actions, and character, there will always be things outside of us, events, people, circumstances, that we cannot predict or control. Yet, how often do we waste time and energy doing just that? Trying to control others, obsessing over outcomes, getting frustrated with things like the weather, the news, or someone else's behavior. The Stoics believed this constant battle against the uncontrollable is one of the greatest sources of human suffering. The more we fight reality, the more we create inattention. But when we accept what we cannot change, we shift from resistance to peace. We begin to work with life instead of against it. Let's look at a relatable example. Getting stuck in traffic. Most of us have been there, running late, feeling irritated, maybe muttering under our breath or honking the horn. But here's the truth. All the frustration in the world won't move the traffic an inch. It's completely outside your control. So, what would a Stoic do? They'd recognize the situation for what it is, and then make a choice. Accept it. Use the time to listen to a podcast, take a few deep breaths, or simply observe the world outside the window. No judgment, just presence. This doesn't magically solve the traffic jam, but it transforms your experience of it. That's the power of acceptance. Marcus Aurelius captured this beautifully in his Meditations. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This quote is like a compass for Stoic living. It points us inward, reminding us that our true power lies not in what happens to us, but in how we respond. By practicing acceptance, we stop wasting energy on things beyond our reach. Instead, we channel that energy into what is within our control, our thoughts, our choices, our attitude. But let's be clear, acceptance does not mean apathy. It doesn't mean you're okay with everything, or that you stop caring. That's a common misconception. Stoic acceptance isn't about giving up. It's about standing grounded in truth. It's about saying, this is the way things are right now. I may not like it, but I won't let it defeat me. What can I do next? This mindset brings clarity. Instead of being tangled in frustration or self-pity, you take calm, purposeful action. You become someone who adapts, who adjusts, and who stays steady even when the world feels chaotic. And so, as we continue this Stoic journey, we arrive at another powerful tool, something that might surprise you with how quiet yet transformative it is: the value of silence and solitude. Earlier, we explored how the power of acceptance frees us from frustration and gives us back control, not of the world outside us, but of how we choose to respond. Now let's go deeper into what that looks like in real life. Imagine this. You've poured your heart and soul into a project at work. You stayed late, gave it your best, and truly believed it would make an impact. But when the time comes, the recognition you hoped for doesn't arrive. Maybe no one notices. Maybe someone else takes the spotlight. That sting of disappointment, that rising frustration, it's only natural. But what happens if we look at this situation through the lens of Stoic acceptance? The Stoics would remind us the way others respond is completely out of your control. Whether they praise you, ignore you, or misjudge your intentions, that's theirs. What is in your control? The quality of your work, the effort you gave, the pride you take in knowing you did your best. By accepting the outcome without clinging to a need for external validation, you shift your focus inward and find peace in your own integrity. You don't need applause to measure your worth. You've already done the real work. This mindset doesn't just help you recover from setbacks. It builds resilience. It nurtures quiet confidence, because you're no longer held hostage by results or opinions. You're rooted in your values, not in the shifting winds of outside approval. Seneca, another great Stoic philosopher, also emphasized the importance of acceptance, especially when dealing with difficult people or unpleasant situations. He never promised life would be smooth or that people would always behave the way we want them to. In fact, he warned us to expect the opposite and to prepare ourselves accordingly. One of his most famous teachings says, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." Let that sink in. The very challenges we resist are the ones that shape us. The people who test our patience, they refine our character. The setbacks we dread, they sharpen our wisdom. Let's take this idea into our personal relationships. How often do we get upset with others simply because they didn't meet our expectations? Maybe a friend cancels plans last minute. A colleague is hard to work with. Our instinct might be to argue, blame, or try to change them. But from a Stoic perspective, the more powerful choice is to accept that we can't control others, only how we respond. This doesn't mean you approve of rude behavior or stay silent in the face of disrespect. It means you don't let those actions shake your peace. You can choose patience. You can choose understanding. You can even choose boundaries without needing anger to draw them. And then there's failure, one of the hardest areas where acceptance can feel nearly impossible. When things don't go as planned, it's easy to take it personally, to see failure as a reflection of who we are. But the Stoics taught us to see it differently, to view failure not as defeat, but as a natural and necessary part of life. Epictetus encouraged his students to treat every experience, whether pleasant or painful, as an opportunity to grow, because often it's in failure that we learn the most about ourselves, about persistence, about humility, about courage. So, the next time you fall short, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What part of this is within my control? And then move forward, wiser and stronger. In the previous segment, we looked at how accepting failure, not resisting it, can become a source of growth and strength. Now, let's talk about something that naturally follows acceptance. Something that can truly liberate the mind and heart, learning to let go. When we stop letting failure define us, when we start analyzing what went wrong and move forward with clarity, we begin to build a quiet kind of resilience, one that isn't shaken by missteps or setbacks. That's because Stoicism encourages us to see mistakes as part of the journey, not as dead ends. Failure becomes feedback. Every stumble becomes a stepping stone. And once we stop fearing those stumbles, we move with more confidence and less hesitation. But acceptance, as the Stoics saw it, doesn't stop with failure. It also means letting go of the past. So many of us carry burdens we no longer need. Regrets from years ago, mistakes we can't undo, losses we never fully released. And what happens? We end up stuck in the past, replaying, reanalyzing, reliving moments we cannot change. Marcus Aurelius gave us a powerful reminder in Meditations. The past is a mere fragment of time, no longer with us. The present is a fleeting instant. The future is unknown and uncertain. By truly accepting that the past is gone, we loosen its grip on our present. We stop trying to rewrite what's already written, and instead, focus on the one thing we can actually influence, what we choose to do now. This is the heart of Stoic acceptance. Letting go of what you cannot control, so you can put your full energy into what you can. It's not about giving up. It's about letting go of resistance and stepping fully into the present moment. Letting go is one of the most transformative practices in Stoic philosophy and in life. Whether it's the pain of a failed relationship, the sting of an unmet expectation, or the frustration of something beyond your control, learning to release these emotional attachments is essential for preserving your peace and building emotional resilience. The Stoics believed that much of our suffering doesn't come from the events themselves, but from how tightly we cling to our ideas about how those events should have gone. Epictetus famously said, "It is not events that disturb people, it is their judgments concerning them." In other words, it's not the event that hurts us, it's the meaning we attach to it, the expectations we had, the story we told ourselves about how things were supposed to unfold. Think about it. When we hold on too tightly to unrealistic desires, to imagined outcomes, to how we wished things would go, we set ourselves up for disappointment. We create suffering not from reality, but from our refusal to accept it. Letting go doesn't mean we stop caring. It doesn't mean we become indifferent or disconnected. What it does mean is this: we release the emotional weight of trying to control what was never ours to control in the first place. Let's take a simple example. Say you're still carrying anger from an argument that happened days or even years ago. That anger doesn't change the outcome of the argument. It doesn't rewind time or make the other person behave differently. All it does is cause you more tension, more stress, more inner conflict. But when you let go of that anger, something shifts. You free up mental and emotional space. You move forward without dragging that emotional baggage behind you. And in that space, you rediscover peace. Marcus Aurelius captured this mindset beautifully when he wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." Letting go allows us to arrive in the now, awake, unburdened, and open to the day ahead. It reminds us that this moment, right here, is full of possibility, if we're not weighed down by yesterday's heaviness or tomorrow's fears. In our last section, we explored the liberating practice of letting go, releasing the emotional weight of the past, unmet expectations, or things beyond our control. Now let's look closer at where this practice becomes even more powerful, in how we deal with regret and the stories we tell ourselves about what could have been. Letting go isn't always easy, especially when it comes to past mistakes. Many of us find ourselves caught in a mental loop, replaying conversations, decisions, or missed chances. If only I had done this differently. Why did I say that? While some reflection can help us grow, dwelling too long on what's already done only keeps us stuck. The Stoics understood this well. They reminded us that regret is not meant to trap us in the past. It's meant to gently redirect us toward wiser choices in the present. Seneca once wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." In other words, to move forward, we have to let go of what's behind us. That ending, it had its time. And now, it's time to step into something new. Let's consider a familiar example: the end of a relationship. Whether it's romantic, platonic, or professional, the loss of a meaningful connection can be deeply painful. Our minds often spiral into what-ifs or if-onlys, clinging to what went wrong or what we wish we had done differently. But the Stoics teach us that every relationship, like all things, is impermanent. Epictetus urged us to see everything in life, including the people we love, as temporary gifts. This doesn't mean we love less. It means we love more wisely. Rather than grasping onto something that has naturally ended, we can choose to honor the experience for what it was, to be grateful for the joy or lessons it brought, and then gently release it when its time has passed. This shift from attachment to appreciation creates space for healing and for what comes next. But this idea of letting go isn't just about people. It applies to every area of life: material possessions, titles, status, and even our sense of identity. Many of us define ourselves by what we do or what we own. Our job titles, achievements, or social standing become deeply tied to our self-worth. And while there's nothing wrong with taking pride in your work or accomplishments, the danger comes when we cling to them as fixed definitions of who we are. Stoicism invites us to loosen that grip, to recognize that these external markers are fleeting. You could lose your job, change careers, or walk away from the spotlight, and you would still be you. Seneca captured this beautifully when he said, "He who is brave is free." The courage to release what you thought defined you, the bravery to let go of what no longer serves you, is what sets you free. Free to grow, to evolve, to be something new. And finally, there's one more attachment many of us struggle with: expectations. We plan a vacation, envision a promotion, pour energy into a personal project. And when things don't turn out the way we hoped, we feel disappointed, frustrated, maybe even angry. The Stoics remind us that while we can control our efforts, we cannot control the outcomes. That part lies outside our hands. Marcus Aurelius advised us to act with integrity, to give our best, and then release the outcome. Because the result doesn't always reflect the worth of the work, what matters is that you showed up with presence and purpose. So, how do we live with that kind of grace and gratitude, even when things fall short of what we imagined? Previously, we explored how letting go of regrets, attachments, and expectations can free us from emotional burdens and allow us to live more fully. Now, let's turn our attention to another deep layer of that practice: letting go of the need for approval. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart." This teaching encourages us to meet life with openness, not control. It invites us to stop resisting what is, and to start embracing the people and situations that cross our path. Not reluctantly, but wholeheartedly. When we let go of rigid expectations about people, outcomes, or even ourselves, we become more adaptable, more present, and far more resilient in the face of life's unpredictability. But one of the most difficult things to release is our attachment to how we're perceived by others. Let's be honest, many of us feel trapped by the opinions of those around us. We dress a certain way, speak a certain way, make life decisions, all in the hope of being liked, respected, or admired. And while it's natural to care about connection, living in constant search of approval can quietly erode our confidence and peace of mind. The Stoics saw this clearly. They taught that what others think of us lies entirely outside our control. Epictetus, never one to sugarcoat truth, offered this bold advice: if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. At first glance, it might sound harsh, but the heart of this message is simple. Let go of the need for validation. When you're no longer trying to please everyone or live up to others' expectations, you reclaim a powerful freedom. The freedom to be authentic, focused, and at peace with your own path. Let's ground this with a real-life example. Imagine you're about to give a presentation at work. Your heart's racing, not just because of the material, but because you're worried about what your colleagues will think. Will they be impressed? Will they judge me? That anxiety can completely overshadow your performance. Now, apply a Stoic lens. Instead of obsessing over their reactions, something you can't control, you shift your focus inward. You prepare thoroughly. You deliver with clarity. You speak with intention. And then you let go. You've done your part. What they think, that's not your burden to carry. This mindset reduces pressure and boosts confidence because it places your energy exactly where it belongs, on your own actions, not others' opinions. In the end, letting go is not about withdrawal or indifference, it's about liberation. It's about freeing yourself from attachments that weigh you down, whether it's to past mistakes, imagined outcomes, or the approval of others. When we stop trying to control what was never ours to control, something remarkable happens. We begin to live with greater peace, presence, and clarity. As the Stoics taught, so much of our suffering stems from clinging. But when we learn to release, we make space for growth, for healing, and for experiences we might otherwise miss. Now that we've explored how letting go can help us live with more clarity and freedom, let's look at the powerful practice that helps us stay in that space: mindfulness. Because once we've released the past and the need for control, we need something to anchor us in the present. Mindfulness is what helps us reconnect with what's happening right now, instead of being pulled into worries about the future or regrets about the past. And according to the Stoics, that disconnection from the present moment is exactly where much of our suffering begins. They believed that our greatest emotional struggles don't come from what's actually happening, but from our minds constantly drifting to what has happened or what might happen, things completely beyond our control. Marcus Aurelius, ever the voice of calm wisdom, put it simply: confine yourself to the present. This wasn't just poetic advice, it was a practical strategy for peace. The present is the only place where life truly happens. It's the only moment we can influence, and yet, so often, we live somewhere else, caught in yesterday's memories or tomorrow's anxieties. When our minds are lost in these timelines, we disconnect from the reality unfolding in front of us. We miss conversations. We rush through tasks. We feel unsettled, like we're constantly trying to catch up with ourselves. Mindfulness brings us back. It's the gentle, consistent practice of paying attention, noticing where your thoughts are, redirecting your focus, fully engaging with whatever you're doing, whether it's having a conversation, walking through a park, or even washing the dishes. It doesn't require silence or incense, just presence. Let's take a simple example. Imagine you're at work, staring at your screen, but your mind isn't there. It's replaying a tough conversation you had with a friend the night before. You keep going over what you said, what you should have said, how they reacted. Sound familiar? In that moment, you're not really working, and you're not resolving the past either. You're stuck. Your focus is fractured, and your stress begins to rise. But if you're practicing mindfulness, something shifts. You notice the mental drift, you pause, you take a breath, and you guide your attention gently back to what's in front of you. You're not suppressing the memory, you're choosing not to let it hijack your present. And that choice, that's powerful. Over time, this habit strengthens your mental resilience. You begin to catch distractions more quickly. You feel calmer under pressure. You stop reacting out of habit and start responding with intention. Epictetus believed this kind of self-awareness was essential. He taught, it's not external events that upset us, but how we interpret them. And when you're mindful, you see those interpretations as they form. You recognize your emotional reactions and gain the space to choose your response, instead of being swept away by it. That pause between stimulus and reaction, that's where Stoic power lives. Mindfulness, then, isn't just about focus, it's about freedom. Freedom from mental noise, freedom from emotional reactivity, freedom to live aligned with your values, even in moments of stress or uncertainty. In the last section, we explored how mindfulness helps us respond to life with calm and intention, rather than being swept away by impulse. Now, let's go deeper into how this practice can transform not only your moments, but your entire emotional landscape. Mindfulness isn't just about attention, it's about awareness. And one of the most valuable ways that awareness shows up is in our ability to observe our emotions without being ruled by them. Picture this. You're driving, and someone suddenly cuts you off in traffic. Instantly, your heart races. Your hands grip the wheel tighter. Anger flashes in. Sound familiar? Your reflex might be to honk, yell, or curse under your breath. But here's where mindfulness becomes a superpower. Instead of reacting automatically, you notice what's happening inside you. You feel the frustration rise, but you don't act on it. You take a deep breath, you let the moment pass, and just like that, you return to your peaceful drive unshaken. This ability to witness your emotions rather than become them is one of the greatest gifts of mindfulness. It helps you stay centered in a world that's constantly trying to throw you off balance. And beyond daily annoyances, mindfulness is also an incredibly effective tool for reducing stress and anxiety. So much of the anxiety people feel today doesn't come from the present moment. It comes from the future, from mental movies of what might go wrong. The mind races. What if this happens? What if that doesn't work out? And the spiral begins. The Stoics saw this clearly. Seneca put it bluntly when he said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." How true is that? Our minds, left unchecked, will create scenarios that haven't happened and may never happen. We rehearse problems that don't yet exist. But through mindfulness, we can gently bring ourselves back to this breath, this moment, this reality. And here's where the power lies. The present is the only place where we actually have any influence. The future is just a concept. The past is gone. But now, this is where change can happen. Another key insight the Stoics offer, which mindfulness reinforces, is the understanding that everything is temporary, especially our thoughts and emotions. Your circumstances, they'll shift. Your feelings, they'll come and go. Even your most intense thoughts. They're just mental events, passing clouds in the sky of your mind. Marcus Aurelius captured this idea beautifully when he wrote, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth." This quote reminds us that our thoughts are not absolute truths. They are interpretations, influenced by mood, memory, and perception. When you practice mindfulness, you begin to recognize this. You see your thoughts as passing guests, not permanent residents, and you gain the power to choose which ones you invite in and which ones you let pass by. Let's take another example. Say you're preparing for a big presentation at work. Your mind starts spiraling. What if I mess up? What if they think I'm not good enough? These thoughts are loud, intrusive, and convincing. But when you're mindful, you don't automatically believe them. Instead, you pause and acknowledge, "I'm noticing that I'm feeling anxious. I'm having the thought that I might mess up. But that's just a thought. I don't have to buy into it." That one shift, recognizing a thought as just a thought, can stop a spiral in its tracks. It gives you space, and in that space, you can breathe, regroup, and act with clarity. As we just explored, mindfulness sharpens our awareness, helping us step back from overwhelming thoughts and reconnect with what's real, right now. But there's another practice, closely tied to mindfulness, that's often overlooked in our noisy, fast-paced world: the power of silence. When we cultivate mindful awareness, we create a space between ourselves and our thoughts. And in that space, anxiety softens. We begin to respond to situations with more calm, more clarity, and greater confidence. But mindfulness doesn't just reduce stress, it deepens joy. When we're fully present, we become more sensitive to the subtle beauty in everyday life. The warm glow of sunlight on your face, the rich flavor of your morning coffee, the sound of a friend's laughter echoing in the room. These aren't big moments. They're small, but they're everything. The Stoics taught that true happiness isn't found in external success or material wealth. It lives in our ability to appreciate what's already here. It's an inner sense of peace, not something we chase. Epictetus once said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." Mindfulness helps us do exactly that. It trains us to shift our focus from what we lack to what we have, from endless wanting to quiet appreciation. And that shift, that's where peace begins. So in conclusion, mindfulness is not just a Stoic technique, it's a way of living, a skill that helps us move through life with less stress, more focus, and a deeper emotional resilience. When we stay present, we stop being held hostage by regrets or future fears. We respond with wisdom, not reactivity. And most importantly, we begin to experience our lives instead of just thinking about them. But now, let's explore a tool the Stoics believed was equally important, yet often undervalued in today's world: silence. In our modern world, silence is rare and often misunderstood. We're constantly surrounded by noise, digital notifications, background chatter, our own racing thoughts. But for the Stoics, silence wasn't emptiness, it was power. They didn't view silence as the absence of words, but as a meaningful space, a space for reflection, for restraint, and for wisdom. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, gave us this timeless advice. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. This isn't just clever, it's practical. Listening more and talking less allows us to observe, understand, and respond with thoughtfulness, rather than impulsiveness. In today's culture of constant updates and instant replies, silence can feel uncomfortable, even awkward. Many people rush to fill quiet moments with music, messages, or small talk. But Stoicism teaches that those quiet moments are where insight lives. When we allow ourselves to be still, even for a minute, we create space for our thoughts to settle and for our deeper understanding to surface. Think of silence as a pause, not an absence, but an intentional moment. It's the breath before speaking, the calm before choosing, the clarity before acting. Epictetus echoed this when he said, "Nature gave us 1 tongue and 2 ears so that we could hear twice as much as we speak." In other words, silence is active. It's not passive or weak, it's purposeful. Learning to be comfortable in stillness strengthens our emotional discipline. It helps us resist the urge to react immediately, and it allows our words, when we do choose to speak, to carry more weight and meaning. Now think about your daily conversations. How often do we interrupt, jump in too fast, or speak just to fill space? In doing so, we sometimes miss what's most important, not just in what others are saying, but in what we truly feel or believe. By allowing space for silence, we give ourselves and others the chance to be heard. We listen not just to respond, but to understand. And in that space, true connection is born. Previously, we explored how silence can help us become better listeners, more grounded, more present, and more thoughtful. Now, let's take that understanding 1 step further and see how silence also deepens our connection with ourselves. When we truly listen, without rushing to speak, we show others that we're engaged, respectful, and open to their perspective. This kind of deep, intentional listening strengthens relationships. It tells the other person, "You matter, I hear you." And from that space, we're able to respond thoughtfully, rather than reacting out of habit or emotion. Seneca, another great Stoic mind, emphasized that silence isn't just about what we withhold from others. It's also about what we allow ourselves to hear within. He wrote, "It is quality rather than quantity that matters." This wisdom doesn't only apply to our speech, but to our thoughts. When we create intentional silence in our lives, we're able to sift through the mental clutter and focus on what truly matters. In quiet moments, we can reflect. Are my actions aligned with my values? Am I moving toward the life I want? Or just reacting to whatever's in front of me? Silence becomes a space for truth to surface. Not noise, not distractions, just clarity. Let's look at a real-world example. You're in a work meeting. Someone challenges your idea, perhaps even dismisses it. Your first instinct? Defend yourself, fire back, prove them wrong. But here's where Stoic silence becomes powerful. Instead of reacting instantly, you pause, take a breath. You sit in the silence, even if it feels uncomfortable, and allow space for reflection. That one, small pause, gives you time to separate emotion from intention. You respond, not with heat, but with clarity. And that measured response, it builds trust, credibility, and composure. Silence in this way becomes a form of self-restraint, one of the Stoic virtues. The Stoics believed that part of living a virtuous life is learning to master our impulses, including the impulse to speak when silence would serve us better. Marcus Aurelius offered this guiding question. Ask yourself, at every moment, is this necessary? It's a simple but powerful tool. Before you speak, ask, does this add value? Does this reflect who I want to be? If not, silence may be the stronger choice. In a world of endless noise, especially online, this kind of restraint is rare. Social media rewards fast responses, bold opinions, instant reactions. But the Stoics remind us there is strength in pausing, in choosing not to engage in every battle, not to comment on every post, not to let your peace be stolen by every disagreement. Let's apply this to a common situation. Online discussions. You read a post that frustrates you. You feel the urge to respond, to correct, to argue. But ask yourself, is this necessary? Will this help or harm? By choosing silence, or even just a pause, you avoid being pulled into drama or conflict that doesn't serve your peace. You protect your energy, and in doing so, you become more intentional about how you show up, not just online, but in all areas of life. When we embrace silence, we create the space to observe rather than react. It's tempting to respond immediately, especially in today's world, where we're conditioned to have an opinion ready at all times. But by practicing silence and reflection, we can step back from that impulse to immediately jump into the conversation or argue. This gives us the opportunity to pause and ask ourselves, is it even necessary to respond? Instead of reacting impulsively, we find ourselves in a position to choose our words more carefully. We can ask ourselves how we can respond in a way that is constructive rather than combative. This simple shift helps us maintain our emotional balance and ensures that we engage with others thoughtfully and respectfully. But silence doesn't just help us respond better to others, it also fosters self-awareness. In those quiet moments, we gain insight into our own thoughts, emotions, and reactions without judgment. This self-awareness is crucial for personal growth because it allows us to recognize the patterns in our behavior, both the positive and the negative. For example, during a quiet moment, you might notice that you tend to react defensively in certain situations, or that you often speak just to impress others rather than from a place of genuine thought. Recognizing these tendencies in silence gives you the power to make more conscious decisions in how you interact with others. It's through this kind of reflection that we develop greater self-control and confidence in our actions. And it's not just about becoming more aware of our behaviors. Silence also provides the perfect space for gratitude. In a world full of noise, we often forget to pause and appreciate what we already have. When we take time to sit in silence, we can reflect on what we're grateful for, big or small. The Stoics believed that gratitude is a cornerstone of a fulfilling life. It shifts our focus from what's lacking to what's present. When we practice gratitude in these quiet moments, we cultivate a deep sense of contentment and peace, which strengthens our resilience when faced with adversity. To sum it up, using silence effectively is a powerful Stoic practice that allows us to cultivate emotional resilience, clarity, and self-awareness. In a world that values instant reactions and constant communication, silence is a refuge, a space where we can reflect, listen, and act intentionally. By learning to pause before speaking, practicing self-restraint, and embracing quiet moments, we enrich our relationships, make better decisions, and live more mindfully. The Stoics remind us that silence is not emptiness. It's an opportunity for growth, wisdom, and peace. Previously, we explored the quiet power of silence and how it helps us reflect, listen, and act with intention. Now, let's shift our focus to another timeless Stoic principle, learning to enjoy the journey, not just the outcome. In a world that constantly pushes us to achieve, to win, to reach the next milestone, it's easy to get swept up in the pressure of what's next. But the Stoics remind us that true fulfillment isn't found in the result, it's found in the process. Epictetus once said, "Do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Rather, wish that what happens, happen the way it happens. Then you will be happy." This powerful teaching encourages us to let go of obsessing over outcomes. Instead, it invites us to focus on effort, discipline, and the valuable lessons we gain along the way. When we start to appreciate the journey, we free ourselves from the exhausting cycle of success versus failure, and we begin to find joy in the everyday victories that give life meaning. Think about your own goals. Maybe they're related to health, career, relationships, or even a creative passion. It's good to set goals. But the trap many of us fall into is believing that our happiness or self-worth depends entirely on reaching that end result. Take, for example, someone training for a marathon. If they focus solely on finishing the race and getting a specific time, they might completely overlook the deeper rewards. The consistency of showing up every day, the strength built in both body and mind, the discipline and resilience forged, mile by mile. The Stoics would encourage that runner to take pride in the training, not just the trophy, because it's in the struggle, the sweat, the steady progress, that true growth happens. Focusing on the journey helps us stay engaged and present. When we're too consumed by future outcomes, we lose touch with the richness of the moment where, Marcus Aurelius said it best, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." That means your experience isn't shaped by what happens later. It's shaped by how you think about what's happening now. And if you're always racing toward a future goal, you might miss the beauty unfolding right in front of you. Let's make this more relatable. Imagine you're working on a long-term project at your job or in school. You've set a high bar for yourself, and at first, you're motivated. But as the weeks pass, the pressure starts building. You begin worrying. What if it's not good enough? What if no one appreciates it? In this state, the excitement fades. The work starts to feel heavy. Stress takes over. But if you apply Stoic wisdom and shift your focus, everything changes. You remind yourself, this isn't just about the final result. It's about what I'm learning, how I'm growing, and how I'm showing up every day. That simple change in perspective releases the pressure. You reconnect with the purpose behind your work, and just like that, you enjoy the process again. Another important part of enjoying the journey is acknowledging that life is unpredictable. We can set goals, we can plan, we can give our best, but we can't guarantee the outcome because so much is beyond our control. That's why the Stoics placed value not on control, but on courage. Seneca wrote, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that things are difficult." In other words, don't wait for certainty. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Act boldly, show up fully, and trust that the process will shape you, even if the outcome doesn't look the way you imagined. In the last section, we talked about how fulfillment comes not from obsessing over results, but from embracing the process itself. Now, let's go even deeper into this idea, into how letting go of the need for guaranteed success can actually set us free. When we stop clinging to a specific outcome, something powerful happens. We release the fear of failure. It's not success that defines our growth. It's the willingness to show up and take on the challenge in the first place. When we accept that outcomes are uncertain, we no longer let anxiety rule our actions. Instead of stressing over whether we'll win or lose, we focus on giving our best effort, knowing that the journey itself holds value, regardless of the final result. Think about athletes, artists, or anyone who commits themselves to a craft. They spend hours, sometimes years, refining their skills. Many of them do it with no promise of fame, trophies, or external recognition. If their happiness depended solely on applause or awards, they'd live in a constant state of stress and disappointment. But those who truly thrive, the ones who find joy in the process, are the ones who paint, run, write, or build simply because they love the act itself, because there's meaning in the work, not just the reward. Stoicism teaches us this truth. The journey is where the real transformation happens. It's in the daily effort, in the quiet discipline, in the trial, error, and repetition. That's where we learn. That's where we grow. The external rewards, they're nice, but they're not the point. This mindset becomes especially important when we face setbacks. If we're too focused on the outcome, Any failure can feel like a crushing blow. We might feel like we've wasted our time, that all the effort was for nothing. But from the Stoic perspective, a setback isn't the end. It's part of the road. It's a teacher. Epictetus reminded us of this when he advised that obstacles are opportunities, not barriers. They're moments to practice resilience, patience, and perspective. By embracing life's challenges, we become stronger, wiser, more capable. And along this journey, we must also learn to be patient with ourselves. We often set ambitious goals, and that's great. But we also tend to grow frustrated when we don't see fast results, when progress feels slow or messy. The Stoics remind us, that's normal, that's life. Marcus Aurelius offered a gentle metaphor. No matter how long you train a bird to sing, you will never teach it to sing the way you do. Each has its own nature, its own way. This quote is a quiet reminder. We each walk our own path. We grow at our own pace. And instead of rushing the process, we must learn to honor it. When we embrace this philosophy, we become more compassionate with ourselves. We stop measuring our worth by the speed of our progress. And we begin to trust that, with consistent effort and patience, growth will come on its own timeline. So in conclusion, learning to enjoy the journey, not just the outcome, is a core Stoic teaching that brings us greater peace, fulfillment, and emotional resilience. When we shift our focus from results to the process, we take pressure off our shoulders. We begin to celebrate small victories, find meaning in everyday effort, and see setbacks not as failures, but as stepping stones. Because in the end, the Stoics remind us, life isn't about reaching a destination, it's about walking the path with purpose, presence, and curiosity. After learning to embrace the journey, not just the outcome, we come to one of the most heart-centered Stoic lessons, finding joy in the simplest things. Because sometimes fulfillment isn't about doing more, it's about noticing what's already here. In a world where happiness is often measured by status, wealth, or achievement, Stoic philosophy offers us a radical, but refreshingly simple, truth. Joy lives in the ordinary. The Stoics didn't deny that success can feel good, but they warned us, if your happiness depends on external accomplishments, you'll always be chasing something just out of reach. Instead, they taught that true contentment begins when we learn to appreciate what we already have, right here, in this very moment. Seneca, one of the most well-known Stoic philosophers, captured this perfectly when he wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." This quote turns the idea of wealth upside down. According to Stoicism, poverty isn't about lacking possessions. It's about being trapped in endless desire. When we always want more money, more recognition, more of anything, we rob ourselves of the joy that already exists in the present. But when we slow down, look around, and savor the simple moments, we discover an abundance that was always there. Think about this: a warm cup of coffee in the early morning, the gentle rhythm of falling rain, a quiet walk, a smile from someone you pass on the street, the feeling of sunlight on your skin. These small moments are easy to miss, but they're where real joy hides. The Stoics believed that happiness isn't a result of external circumstances. It's a product of your mindset. Marcus Aurelius put it clearly: the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. That means it's not your bank account or your job title that defines your peace. It's your perspective. What are you choosing to focus on? Are you caught in endless comparison, or are you seeing the beauty in what you already have? In today's fast-moving, consumer-driven world, we're constantly bombarded with messages that tell us we're not enough, that we need more to be happy. But the Stoics challenged this idea. They believed that this pursuit of more is actually what creates dissatisfaction. Epictetus summed it up beautifully. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. When we reduce our desires, when we stop chasing, and start appreciating, we make space for lasting joy. Let's imagine a very real moment. You're walking through a park on a sunny afternoon. You could spend that time scrolling on your phone, thinking about your to-do list, or stressing over what you don't have. Or you could pause, take a deep breath. Notice the green of the trees, the chirping birds, the feeling of fresh air against your skin. That one choice, to be present, shifts your experience completely. Suddenly, it's not just a walk. It's a moment of connection, of peace, of gratitude. And that's the Stoic way. To find joy in the simplest things also means living with gratitude. The Stoics believed gratitude was a powerful antidote to the dissatisfaction that creeps in when we forget how much we already have. Seneca once wrote, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future. It's a reminder to stop waiting for joy to arrive someday and to start noticing it right now." In the last part, we explored how joy often hides in the small, simple moments, those easy-to-miss slices of life that become meaningful when we learn to slow down and pay attention. But how do we nurture this way of seeing the world? Gratitude is the answer, and the Stoics saw it as a daily practice, not just a fleeting emotion. You don't need anything fancy to begin. Some people choose to keep a gratitude journal, jotting down just 3 things each day that they're thankful for. Others prefer to pause in real time, taking a few seconds here and there throughout the day to acknowledge a small blessing. The warmth of their bed, the sound of laughter, the feeling of a productive afternoon. Whatever form it takes, gratitude brings you back to now. It grounds you in the goodness that already exists in your life and teaches you to appreciate life's simplicity rather than constantly chasing what's next. Stoicism also reminds us that joy in the simplest things often comes hand in hand with living a life of moderation. The Stoics didn't advocate for luxury, excess, or indulgence. Instead, they embraced a lifestyle rooted in balance and simplicity, where external achievements and material wealth were seen as secondary to inner peace, virtue, and self-discipline. Epictetus offered this timeless truth. He who is not satisfied with a little is satisfied with nothing. In other words, if you can't find contentment with what you already have, no amount of more will ever be enough. That's why Stoicism encourages us to simplify. Not in a way that feels restrictive, but in a way that clears space. Imagine decluttering your home, cutting down on unnecessary expenses, or removing digital distractions. These are not sacrifices. They're shifts in focus. You're making room for what truly matters: your well-being, your relationships, and your growth. And as we let go of our attachment to more, we begin to notice a shift in how we feel: less overwhelmed, less distracted, and more at peace. Another beautiful expression of this Stoic mindset is learning to be fully present with the people we love. In our fast-paced lives, it's all too easy to take those around us for granted. We might physically be there, but mentally, we're miles away, thinking about work, scrolling on our phones, or planning our next task. But the Stoics remind us that these small, quiet moments of connection, sharing a meal, having a deep conversation, or even sitting together in comfortable silence, are among life's greatest treasures. Marcus Aurelius offered this reflection. When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. That quote alone is a call to presence, to gratitude, to not letting the moments slip by unnoticed. When we slow down and appreciate time spent with those we care about, we're reminded that the act of simply being together without distraction is enough. More than enough. So in conclusion, finding joy in the simplest things is not just a Stoic lesson. It's a way of living that brings peace, clarity, and deep contentment. When we stop chasing more and start noticing now, we discover that true happiness isn't found in accomplishments or possessions. It's found in presence, in stillness, in gratitude, in connection. As we've just seen, being fully present allows us to savor the small, beautiful details of daily life. Now we turn to one of the most heart-opening practices in Stoic philosophy, gratitude. Because when presence meets appreciation, joy deepens. Gratitude isn't just a nice habit. In Stoicism, it's a foundational mindset, one that fosters happiness, builds resilience, and keeps us grounded during life's ups and downs. The Stoics believed that regularly reflecting on what we're thankful for helps us shift our focus from what's missing to what's already here, from scarcity to abundance, from dissatisfaction to peace. Seneca expressed this beautifully when he wrote, "Nothing is more honorable than a grateful heart." Gratitude, in this view, is not about polite gestures. It's not just saying thank you out of habit. It's about living with a heart that notices, that recognizes life's gifts, both large and small, and values them deeply. In modern life, it's all too easy to fall into the trap of constant pursuit. More money, more recognition, more success, the next thing, the next level. But Stoicism challenges this cycle. It teaches that real contentment doesn't come from chasing what we don't have. It comes from appreciating what we already do. Practicing gratitude anchors us in the present. It reminds us that even in difficulty, we're not empty, we're still surrounded by blessings. Epictetus offered timeless advice when he said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." And here's the key. Practicing gratitude doesn't mean pretending everything is fine when it's not. It doesn't mean denying pain or ignoring problems. It means acknowledging the good even while facing the hard. It's about balance. Let's take a relatable example. Imagine you're going through a tough period at work. Maybe you've been passed over for a promotion. Naturally, you might feel disappointment, maybe even frustration. The Stoics wouldn't tell you to suppress those feelings, but they would encourage you to look at the bigger picture. What's still going well? Do you have a job that supports you? Have you gained valuable skills, built meaningful relationships with colleagues, learned lessons that will serve you in the future? This shift in focus doesn't erase the setback, but it puts it in perspective. It helps prevent negative emotions from consuming your mindset. Gratitude becomes a form of emotional resilience, a stabilizing force, and it doesn't take much to begin. Even during stressful times, there are always small sources of light, like the support of a friend, a moment of rest, or simply knowing you have the strength to keep going. Marcus Aurelius also spoke of gratitude with quiet, powerful simplicity. In Meditations, he wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." This one practice, starting your day with gratitude, can change everything. It sets the tone. It shapes how you carry yourself. Even in tough times, that morning reminder can be an anchor. One of the simplest ways to build this habit is by keeping a gratitude journal. Just a few lines each day. You might write down something that made you smile, a person you're thankful for, or even a lesson learned through difficulty. Earlier, we explored how starting your day with gratitude can shift your mindset and shape your experience. Now, let's continue by looking at how gratitude, especially when practiced consistently, can transform not just how we see the world, but how we connect with others. One of the most practical and effective ways to cultivate gratitude is by keeping a gratitude journal. At the end of each day, take just a few quiet moments to reflect and write down 3 things you're grateful for. These don't need to be big life-changing events. In fact, they're often the small, easy-to-miss moments. A kind word from a friend, a few peaceful minutes alone, or simply the strength you found to make it through a tough day. This daily habit gently trains your mind to notice the good, even when life feels challenging. Over time, It rewires your focus, helping you see what's working rather than what's missing. It fosters a deeper sense of contentment and reduces the mental habit of constantly chasing or comparing. But gratitude isn't just about our internal mindset. It also plays a vital role in our relationships. It's easy to take the people closest to us for granted, especially those we see every day. But the Stoics remind us that gratitude for others isn't just polite, it's essential. Seneca encouraged us to express our thanks not only to nurture connection, but also because doing so uplifts both the giver and the receiver. When you pause to appreciate someone, whether it's a friend who checks in, a colleague who lends a hand, or a family member who supports you quietly, you're strengthening that bond. A simple thank you, spoken with sincerity, can shift the energy of a relationship. It makes people feel seen, valued, and respected. Let's take a simple example. Say you have a friend who always reaches out when you're feeling low, or a coworker who helps you out when your workload piles up. These actions might seem ordinary, even expected, but when you take the time to truly acknowledge them, with a thoughtful word or small gesture, it deepens the relationship. That moment of gratitude becomes a bridge, building stronger human connection. And here's the beautiful irony. The more you express gratitude outwardly, the more fulfilled you feel inwardly. You begin to see how supported you really are, and how much good is already present in your life. Another powerful dimension of Stoic gratitude is learning to appreciate life's simple pleasures. The Stoics taught that happiness is not rooted in luxury, wealth, or excess, but in simplicity. Epictetus reminded his students to focus on the essentials: good health, nourishing food, purposeful work, and meaningful relationships. Joy, he said, is found in these basic but profound aspects of life. Think about the warmth of the sun on your skin, a quiet moment with your morning coffee, or the laughter shared with someone you love. These may seem small, but when you slow down enough to really notice them, they become everything. When we practice gratitude for these everyday blessings, we cultivate a mindset of abundance, even if our material circumstances are modest. Gratitude also teaches us a powerful truth. Contentment is a choice. In today's world, where we're constantly pushed to want more money, more things, more accolades, the Stoics remind us that peace isn't found in having more, but in wanting less. Seneca put it bluntly: it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. And that lesson still rings true today. When we stop constantly reaching for the next thing and start appreciating what we already have, we free ourselves from the pressure of never being enough. Gratitude becomes our anchor, and contentment becomes our strength. In conclusion, the art of gratitude is not a feel-good practice. It's a fundamental Stoic discipline, one that builds resilience, deepens relationships, and brings more peace into our daily lives. Whether it's through journaling, quiet reflection, or simply saying thank you more often, practicing gratitude helps us live with greater presence, perspective, and purpose. As we've just explored, gratitude helps us see the richness already present in our lives, whether it's health, relationships, or life's simple pleasures. Now, let's shift to another powerful Stoic practice that often gets overlooked in our hyper-connected world: the value of solitude. In an age where we're constantly plugged in, scrolling through social media, answering messages, or keeping up with endless notifications, true solitude can feel like a luxury. But for the Stoics, solitude wasn't just valuable, it was essential. Marcus Aurelius, writing in the quiet of his own thoughts, shared this timeless reflection: nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. This quote reveals a core Stoic belief that the deepest peace we seek doesn't come from the outside world, but from within. And solitude is the space that allows us to return to ourselves. But let's be clear, Solitude isn't just about being physically alone. It's not about isolation or withdrawal. It's about intentionally creating moments of quiet, moments free from distractions, noise, and the pull of the external world, so we can reflect, reset, and reconnect. The Stoics believed that solitude gives us the chance to think clearly, observe our inner world, and align our lives with our values. In those quiet pockets of stillness, we can review our thoughts, reflect on our actions, and ask the deeper questions. Am I living according to my principles? Am I reacting or responding? This kind of introspection builds emotional resilience, clarity, and calm. But let's face it, in today's fast-moving culture, solitude often feels uncomfortable. Why? Because many of us have become used to constant stimulation. We're rarely alone with our thoughts. The moment there's a gap, standing in line, waiting for someone, sitting at home, we reach for a distraction. Our phones, the TV, noise in any form. Yet the Stoics would urge us to resist that urge. They believed that solitude is not something to fear. It's something to embrace. It's a mirror reflecting who we are beneath the surface of busyness. Seneca captured this perfectly when he wrote, "Nothing, to my way of thinking, is a better proof of a well-ordered mind than a man's ability to stop just where he is and pass some time in his own company." In other words, your ability to be alone with yourself and be at peace with that is a sign of strength, not weakness. Let's bring this idea into a real-world scenario. Imagine you've had a long, stressful day. You're drained, overstimulated, and all you want to do is unwind. For many people, the instinct is to turn to quick distractions, binge-watching shows, scrolling endlessly through social media, or heading out just to avoid being alone. But what if instead you sat quietly for a few minutes? No phone, no music, just you, maybe with a cup of tea, a journal, or simply your breath. Uncomfortable at first, probably, but within that discomfort lies the invitation, the opportunity to hear your own thoughts, to sort through your emotions, to reconnect with what truly matters. Solitude, practiced regularly, becomes a powerful tool for self-discovery. It sharpens your thinking, strengthens your self-awareness, and teaches you to be enough without external stimulation. In our last section, we discovered how solitude offers a much-needed space for reflection and reconnection in a noisy, overstimulated world. But what happens when we truly embrace that silence, not just to escape, but to grow? While activities like watching TV or scrolling through social media can certainly help us unwind after a stressful day, they often serve as distractions rather than genuine relief. These moments may help us avoid stress temporarily, but they rarely help us understand or process it. Solitude, however, gives us that chance. When we take even a few quiet minutes to step back and reflect, whether it's after work, before bed, or during a walk, we create the mental space to review what happened during the day. We can calmly ask ourselves, how did I respond to today's challenges? What can I learn from the way I handled things? This daily habit of introspection doesn't just reduce stress, it prepares us. It strengthens our ability to face future challenges with greater clarity, patience, and emotional control. Marcus Aurelius wrote often about this kind of inward retreat. He believed that the most reliable peace was not found in remote getaways or scenic views, but in the quiet corners of our own minds. In meditations, he reflected, people seek retreats for themselves in the country, by the sea, in the mountains, but it is in one's own soul that a man finds the most peaceful and trouble-free retreat. It's a powerful reminder that we don't need to escape to faraway places to find peace. We carry that retreat within us if we learn how to access it. This practice of solitude helps us develop something invaluable: self-awareness. In the busyness of everyday life, it's easy to lose ourselves in the noise, pressures from work, expectations from others, the constant stream of opinions, obligations, and comparisons. We often make choices based on what we think we should do, rather than what's truly right for us. But solitude cuts through that noise. It gives us the stillness to ask, what do I really want? What matters most to me? Let's imagine a scenario. You're at a career crossroads, considering whether to stay in your current job or pursue a new opportunity. Naturally, you seek advice. Friends, family, colleagues, all with good intentions, offer their perspectives. But instead of gaining clarity, you feel more overwhelmed, confused. This is when solitude becomes your compass. When you step away from outside opinions and sit quietly with yourself, you give your own voice space to speak. You might journal. You might walk and reflect. But the key is this: you're not reacting. You're listening. You begin to recognize what truly matters to you, whether that's growth, flexibility, security, or work-life balance. And that deeper awareness helps you make a decision that aligns with your core values, not just what others think is best. Solitude is also a powerful tool for emotional regulation. When we're constantly surrounded by noise, tasks, and people, our emotions can build up, quietly at first, then suddenly. Frustration, anxiety, sadness. If left unprocessed, they can spiral. But solitude gives us the space to observe these emotions before they take control. The Stoics were very clear on this. Epictetus taught that we should use quiet time to examine our thoughts and feelings with intention. He suggested asking, are these emotions serving me, or are they clouding my judgment? That simple question creates a pause, and within that pause is power. Let's take a relatable situation. Imagine you've just had an argument with a close friend or family member. Emotions are running high. You're tempted to send a long, frustrated message, or maybe say something in anger. The impulse to react is strong. But what if instead you stepped away? You sit alone. Breathe, reflect. You allow your emotions to surface, but not to steer. And in doing so, you regain your composure. You return to the situation with clarity, not chaos. Calm, not conflict. In our last section, we explored how solitude gives us the clarity to regulate our emotions and act with intention. Now, let's take one final step inward and see how solitude can also be a space for gratitude, perspective, and deep inner peace. When something upsetting happens, especially in a heated moment, it's easy to react impulsively. Maybe you're hurt, frustrated, or disappointed, and you feel the urge to respond right away. But stepping back and spending time in solitude can change everything. By giving yourself space to breathe and reflect, you allow your emotions to settle. You can calmly process what happened, consider the other person's point of view, and choose a response that aligns with your values, not just your emotional state. This small pause doesn't just prevent unnecessary conflict, it can actually strengthen the relationship. Why? Because your response is thoughtful, not reactive, grounded, not defensive. The Stoics also saw solitude as an opportunity to practice something else vital to inner peace: gratitude and reflection. In moments of stillness, we can quietly turn inward and acknowledge all that is good in our lives. These moments of reflection remind us that peace doesn't come from having everything go our way, but from recognizing what we already have. Seneca put it beautifully when he wrote, "A wise man is content with his lot, whatever it may be, without wishing for what he has not." In solitude, this teaching becomes more than theory. It becomes personal. You sit with your own life, your own journey, and slowly you begin to see there is already so much here to be thankful for. In today's hyper-connected, always-on world, solitude can feel like a luxury, but it's never been more necessary. When we unplug from the noise and distractions, even for a few minutes, we return to ourselves. Whether it's a quiet morning with a cup of tea, a peaceful walk in nature, or a few intentional breaths between meetings, solitude offers a sacred space, a space to reflect, to reset, and to realign. In the end, Appreciating solitude is not about withdrawing from life. It's about stepping into life more consciously, by first stepping inward. The Stoics teach us that solitude helps us reconnect with our values, gain emotional clarity, and find calm strength in an otherwise chaotic world. It reminds us that we don't need to run from the world to find peace. We only need to return to our inner stillness. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the greatest retreat isn't in the mountains or by the sea, but within your own soul. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I hope today's episode reminded you that living a meaningful life doesn't require force or perfection. It's about letting go of control, embracing the journey, and choosing peace in the present. The Stoics remind us again and again, we can't control everything, but we can control how we respond. And in that space, there's power, there's freedom. If this video brought you value, please consider giving it a thumbs up, leaving a comment to share your thoughts, and passing it along to someone who might benefit from these timeless lessons. And of course, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Let's keep growing together and building a mindful, grounded, and resilient community, one lesson at a time. Until next time, stay grounded, stay present, and keep embracing the Stoic way of life. See you in the next episode.